Today is Friday, April 26th. We're going to go around the bases with our MLB insider at the New York Post. He is none other than Jon Heyman. Jon, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing well. We're going to start off with our top story, the New York Yankees. DJ LeMahieu, we got the news this week after he tried to start his rehab from that foot injury that he happened in spring training. He got pulled after one inning, Jon, and now it seems like he's week to week. The Yankees might be without their third baseman for a while now. This is not an easy injury for them to dissect because obviously Birdie is still on the IL. They're hoping to get him back soon. Oswaldo Cabrera's filled in nicely, but it's not just about the DJ LeMahieu injury I want to talk about. It's about this Yankees offense that struggled. They split a series with the Oakland A's this week, led by their captain, Aaron Judge, who has not been hitting well. He did have a couple games in Oakland where he hit a home run and it looked like it was starting to turn around. But then last night, Jon, they go 0 for 3. So what are you taking from this Yankees offense that seems to not be clicking on all cylinders right now?
First of all, on LeMahieu, this is the second foot injury. Obviously, one inning isn't good, so we can't expect to see him too soon, excuse me. Obviously, it's a big loss for them. This is a two-time batting champion, not that long ago, but obviously the foot injuries have been a problem lately. So it's going to be a little bit of time, I would think, for LeMahieu. They don't have an official word on it yet, but one inning is a bad sign. As far as the offense, I mean, it's a continuation of last year, really. Obviously, they got Soto now, so Soto's been great, and obviously Volpe looks better. Cabrera's looks much better, but overall, that offense still struggling from last year. It's funny how the experts, myself included, thought the offense would be great and the pitching was the question, and right now it is the opposite. There's 17 runs over the last 6 games. Against the Rays, who haven't been great, and the A's, who we know aren't great, that's not going to get it done. So Judge is obviously the one, right? I mean, he's hitting under 200 at this point, not hitting lefties like he usually kills. And, we got to think the Judge is going to get going. I'm a little worried about Rizzo. Obviously, has not been great since that concussion, which basically took him out for the season last year. He tried to play through it. Tough guy, didn't work out. Ended the season on the injured list. He came back this year. I think he's a bit of a question at this point. I do have faith in Judge, of course. Obviously, he's had slumps before. This one's lasted a little bit longer, so a little bit more worrisome. But I think I got to think this offense is going to be better than they've been, better than last year, but obviously not been great lately.
Yeah, I think, Jon, the focus for a lot of Yankees fans has been Aaron Judge and this slow start for the month. We should mention Anthony Rizzo did hit 2 home runs during this series against the A's as well. So you hope maybe that can be something better. But yeah, coming into this series against the A's, he only was hitting 235 with 1 home run. Gleyber Torres is another big one that we talk about in the middle of this lineup. Moved from the leadoff spot for Anthony Volpe, who understandably earned that after a hot start, is only slashing 189 with the 288, 211 slash line. It's not been pretty start for Gleyber Torres, to say the least. So to your point, Jon, and Stan, he's a for me, he's a home run hitter that's going to come in bunches. It's not going to be consistent with him. So, he struggled a little bit since he had that one great week 2 weeks ago. So it's definitely not been pretty for this Yankees offense, to your point.
Yeah, I mean, it's again the experts. So many people said Gleyber was going to have a big year, a walk year, didn't look great in spring training, and he has not been good from day one. I mean, I was there in Houston for that first 4-game series. I mean, it went kind of unnoticed because they swept. Obviously, Volpe was tremendous. Cabrera, Soto, they were off to a great start. But I mean, Gleyber Torres was really good last year, probably their most consistent offensive performer.
Yeah.
Obviously, Judge was their best, but most consistent last year. I mean, we're now, 4 weeks into the season, and he has been not good, basically, other than that one little stretch most of the time.
Yep. And I feel like with baseball, obviously it is a marathon. We run into these little mini seasons, it feels like, with each month. So you're hoping that you get a better month from Judge, a better month from Gleyber Torres. Cause like, to your point, there's so much talent. Juan Soto has been absolutely incredible for the Yankees to start the season. Is a big part of the reason why the Yankees have won so many games, and their starting rotation, which has been something that we criticize all offseason, has actually been really, really good for them to start the year.
Yeah, I mean, Soto's got to be wondering what's going on. I mean, he went to the Padres. The rest of the team didn't perform. He performed. They went 82 and 80. Now he's coming to the Bronx Bombers. You know, he's certainly heard about the Bombers. Obviously, last year was not the typical year. Didn't expect that to continue. That 2-3 combination of Soto, Judge. I mean, you got to think this should be one of the best offensive, certainly in the league. I mean, I don't know if anybody matches up to the Dodgers or the Braves, but in their league, you'd think they'd be the best offense. Not even close so far. But you're right on the pitching. Much better than expected. Rodon, I don't want to be too negative. Now, Rodon's been great. Cortez has been really good. Overall, Schmidt's been fine. I think
Yeah.
overall the rotation has been excellent, particularly if you consider that Cole obviously out at least until around June 1st, maybe a little bit later at this point, but around June 1st. It's been the opposite of what we predicted, but overall the record looks good. So, I mean, I guess they're doing okay, but followers of the Bronx Bombers have high standards.
We do, and we get concerned obviously when your captain, arguably your best player besides Juan Soto, he struggles to start the year, and I think what Judge has admitted, he's like, I've gone through slumps before. I'm not worried about myself. I'm not worried about Aaron Judge. I think he will turn it around because he is just so good of a baseball player and he works so hard at his craft. I think he's going to turn it around probably really soon, and we're going to be having a ton of fun when we see that Judge Soto combination and be able to take off. It's funny, John, real quick, just to wrap up the whole Yankees thing. I don't know if you know this. The Yankees players in the clubhouse, they actually got shirts printed that I saw. It says Judge Soto 2024, make the Yankees champions again. A little pun with the whole presidential election coming up this year. So that's pretty funny, I thought, right there.
Nice. Well, we'll see. It's early. We'll
It's
see.
early.
They're doing better than a lot of teams. We got a lot of teams, and we're going to talk about some of these really bad teams later in this. But they're doing better than most. We're a little bit nitpicky with the Yankees,
Yeah.
understandably. The standards are high. Obviously, Judge has been, over the last few years, he's been right there with Ohtani. Acuna is the best player in baseball. So you don't expect him to be hitting under 200 heading toward the end of this month.
Absolutely. John, let's go to our next topic here. The other team in New York, in Queens, the New York Mets. After our last episode, we were killing them like, terrible start, but give them credit. Their lineup has performed. Their starting pitching's done well despite the injuries. They're winning baseball games, and they salvage a 3-3 West Coast trip, taking 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers, which was, I thought, really, really impressive. They did it against Yamamoto. They beat him up. Starling Marte has been a force in the lineup again. Harrison Bader's hit well. Tyrone Taylor, great fourth outfielder. Pete Alonso's smacking home runs like he's usual. And then you see like a performance yesterday, or 2 days ago, I should say, from Francisco Lindor, hits 2 home runs against the Giants. So, John, when you're looking at this Mets lineup, they're about to get the free agent acquisition, JD Martinez, back to this lineup starting tonight. What are your expectations with this Mets team moving forward now that you've seen this team can hit? They can hit a lot better than we thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in pretty good shape. I mean, Lindor, that was a great sign. The 2 home run game with all the RBIs. Obviously, he had been struggling for the most part. Had a big game in LA, an even bigger game in San Francisco. JD Martinez should be activated today. So you're solidified with that 3-4-5, which is a pretty darn good one with Lindor, Alonso, and Martinez. We've been looking for that guy to bat behind Alonso for a couple of years now. Obviously, Stewart had his moments, but he isn't that classic number 5 hitter that you have there behind Alonso, or cleanup hitter behind Alonso. So their lineup looks pretty good. Obviously, Reed Garrett has been terrific. He's got 4 wins already out of nowhere. Really a great story, which we've all written about in the Post at this point. And I mean, their pitching has been pretty solid. They've been pretty good. I mean, obviously, after an 0-5 start, you're wondering what's going on here. I'm going to say this manager looks pretty good right now.
How
Carlos
about that,
Mendoza. I mean, he has kept things steady. Did not get too low after that 0-5 start. Even keel, was not panicking at all accounts, and they came on, and they've been really good. Since then, they've been basically as good as anybody in baseball.
Absolutely, John. 13-11, looking at third in the NL East. But to your point, Reed Garrett, great story there. Manaea's been solid. They look like a good baseball team. They're competing, and to your point, I know you brought up DJ Stewart a little bit. He started to come on a little bit in the last couple of weeks too. He smacked a couple doubles and home runs. It seems like with that lineup, they're going to do some damage. And to your point, that 3-4-5, if Lindor can hit, they could be one of the better lineups in baseball right now, the way they're stacking that up.
Yeah, I mean, Stewart does some damage. He's not going to be a high average hitter. He was a first rounder by the Orioles years back, so he certainly does have talent. It's good to see him coming into his own. But I mean, Reed Garrett, amazing story. He basically said I now have the confidence to throw strikes and expect that I'll be able to get outs to get these guys out. And look, he's got great splitter. He's always had that. He's got refined a couple of his other pitches. And right now, he looks like a shutdown reliever along with Diaz in the back end.
Yeah.
Gives them a very big plus. And look, they could easily make the playoffs. I didn't have them as a playoff team. David Stern said they were playoff caliber. He may turn out to be right.
He may turn out to be right, John. And can we just say how much fun it is to see Edwin Diaz back in baseball, closing baseball games for the Mets? The entrance is a lot of fun, obviously, the pomp and circumstance, but it's great to see Edwin Diaz back in the game of baseball, just owning
Yep.
batters in the ninth inning. I got to say, that's fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best relievers in the game. I mean, 2 years ago, he was untouchable. We'll see for this year. It's early. He has looked very good. Not quite the same for me. I mean, he was untouchable. His stats look good, but he's throwing 97, which, normally that's pretty darn good. But, I mean, he was up around 100 a couple years ago. I think maybe it's early in the season. It does feel like he's not quite as unhittable as he was a couple years ago, but certainly they have a very good closer to go on with Garrett, and boy, Ottavino's been good too. So
Yep.
bullpen, which had been a question, looks very good.
Absolutely. John, let's go to our next topic here. A team that is struggling, to say the least, to start the season in the Houston Astros. Last in the AL West, a record of 7-19 coming into today, a minus 36 run differential. This is a team that continuously made the ALCS year after year after year. We know the injuries to the starting rotation that have happened already to this team. But, John, is it simply boiling down to that, or what else are you seeing from this Astros team that might be concerning to start the year?
Well, the injuries are obviously a big part of it. Basically, just about every starter has been hurt at one time or another for them. Verlander has now come back. I think they'll get Valdez back soon. I don't think Javier is that far away, but I mean, obviously they've been missing Urquidy, McCullers, Garcia. I know it's the pitching epidemic, but it's been crazy with a couple of teams, the Marlins included, but I put the Astros at the top of that list. Certainly a big part of their 7-19 now. I
Seven
thought
and
that Dana
19.
Brown was a Seton All-Star back with Biggio. Now he's combining with Biggio in the Astros front office. And he professed faith in the team. I get it. I mean, look, they were 7-17 when I talked to him. They've been in the ALCS 7 years in a row. They certainly have the pedigree. The history is there. Altuve's doing great, but a lot of questions right now. I mean, among them, Bregman certainly hasn't been very good. Abreu, got to wonder, is he done at this point? I mean, he's looked so bad, batting 65 as we do this. That's not good. Back into the bullpen, which I thought would be the best in baseball. Abreu has not been shut down in the 7th inning, and Presley and Hader have not been good in the 8th and 9th inning. I mean, you got to wonder about some of the decisions now. I mean, I certainly wasn't going to criticize them when they signed Hader, who's arguably the best reliever along with Diaz in baseball for $95 million. But would they have been better to just hold on to all that middle relief that was pretty good for them? Neris and Matan, Stanek, same price for 1 year. Now they've got Hader for 5 years. Abreu was, I think, 3 years, $58 million. I mean, that looks like it may just be money wasted at this point. Got a lot of questions, but nobody running away in that division, so can't give up on them yet.
Can't give on them yet. It's only the first month of the season, but we do want to highlight the fact that this was a powerhouse baseball team for a long time here, and it is shocking to least. I'm happy to see it as a Yankees fan, but it is shocking to see how bad this Astros team has gotten off to a bad start to start the year. John, let's bring this all home. Your disappointing team of the week, not the Astros. It's a team that's even worse than the Astros to start the year. Who is it?
I mean, there have been some very disappointing teams. The Marlins, boy, they've had a lot of injuries. The Rockies, but I mean, nobody compares to the White Sox. 3-22 at this point. I mean, they're on pace to win less than 20 games. That's half as many as the 1962 Mets, which was a historically bad finish. And they have been that bad. They have a negative 85 run differential. They're hitting under 200 as a team. That's not easy to do. Obviously, Robert's been out. Heyman has been out for a while. Moncada has been out. A lot of injuries, but that's not the story. They just cannot hit. They are not good. It is sad to be negative 85 run differential in April. I mean, there's more than 6 months in the season. So, I mean, we're talking this team's going to have a negative 500 run differential. I mean, obviously, that's a pace that people don't stay on that pace. You know, I mean, obviously, Otani's not going to hit 90 doubles or whatever pace he's on. And, you know, obviously, the Guardians are probably not going to win 120 games or whatever pace they're on. So you can't go by the pace, but 3-22, they are in for a very, very long season. 100 wins looks like unavoidable at this point. Is 120? I'm not so sure. They may get there.
Jon, I think they've been shut out more than 5 or 6 times in this season already. It's crazy to see that. And also, to your point, then the run differential, but you also look at the standings. Listen, I get it. The Guardians have been solid to start the year, but you're already 15 games back, and we're in April 26th. 15 games back of your division lead.
I wouldn't even look at that. I mean, if they're them, you can't even look at that. They're not in the race. They knew they were rebuilding. You know, I don't want to say they're tanking, but they knew they were rebuilding. They traded Cease. They knew they weren't going to be a playoff team. So I wouldn't look at that. You got to look at the losses. I mean, 100, I think, is a given at this point. They got to avoid the 120. This looks like the Tigers of 2003, where they needed, what did they win, 5 out of their last 6 or something like that to avoid having the worst record. And, you know, good for the Mets, 62. They've kept that record for 62 years at this point. I mean, it's almost as old as I am. I mean, that's a long, long time. 62 years. I'm not sure they're going to hold on to that record at this point. We still have 62 Mets that are still alive, and they're probably hoping that they don't get that record, right? Ed Cranepool still hanging in there, doing well. And he'd probably like to see it. We'll see. I don't know. I should probably talk to him. Periodically, I do. I talked to him about the A's. I think that was last year or the year before. And I think he'd like to see somebody break the 62 Mets record so people stop saying they're the worst team ever. And, you know, this White Sox team, they've got a shot. And you got to figure maybe they'll make some trades at the deadline. You know, on paper, they may get worse at the deadline. Or do they? I mean, are they going to care about this record? I mean, they're going to keep players so they don't get the record. I don't know, but they look like they're headed toward 120 wins or right there.
Losses, you mean?
Losses, sorry. Yes.
No, yeah. I mean, listen, it's tough to see. I feel for Chicago White Sox fans. This is not an easy season for them to go through. Jon, thank you so much for going around the bases with us. And I just want to say, anyone else who's watching this video, hopefully you'll like this type of content. There's tons of baseball content throughout the season from Jon and Joel Sherman. Watch the show here, listen to their podcast, subscribe to the New York Post Sports YouTube channel. Comment on these videos. Let us know what you think about the Yankees and Mets, the way the seasons have started off for them. And appreciate you as always, Jon, for just going around the bases with us, man.
All right. Great talking to you, Ryan. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.